Okay, so we're back. We left off where we have a nil cache variable, but despite it being nil, we know that it conforms to our cache protocol. Pretty simple, two functions, one for loading, one for saving, both for interacting with some storage mechanism that is key value based. And we're at the juncture where we've got our load and save functions here, that have to do with the moments when we should load and save in the lifecycle of our list view controller. And methods are being called appropriately, but we haven't actually implemented them yet. So let us do that. In order to do that, we want to create a new file. So Control-click on this guy, right? Really anywhere in there, or just go up top to File New. Choose New File, iOS source Swift. Hit Next. We'll call this file user defaults cache. So this is going to be a file where we implement, or we provide the user defaults based implementation of our cache protocol. So I'm going to say this is a class, of course. So type user defaults cache, and it implements our cache protocol. And you'll notice you can list protocols here just like you do superclasses. You would list a superclass and a protocol in the same line after the class name, after the colon here, and in a comma-separated list. It's pretty nice that it the compiler treats in Swift superclasses and protocols similarly. And the minute we do this, the minute we define this new class that implements cache protocol, we're going to get this little red error. If we click on it, it will say type user defaults class cache, our new object here, does not conform to protocol cache protocol. Duh. Of course it doesn't, right? We haven't actually implemented any methods, but it's really nice that the compiler is telling us about this, because it'll catch some oversight on our part if there is any. And there are never oversights on our part. Just kidding. There are tons of oversights on our part. But how do we do this? So let's say we just start typing the name of the first function in our cache protocol, load object for key. Autocomplete puts it out there for us. How does it know to do that? It knows to do that just because we've said that this class conforms to cache protocol. So if I hit enter there, just after having typed a few things and getting one autocomplete option, it does the following for us. It will actually outline the method for us, which gives us a chance to actually provide an implementation. I can do the same thing for our save object function, which means that we now have a class that is set up to provide implementations for the two methods that it is supposed to override implement in cache protocol. We'll get a new error here which says this function is missing a return statement, because we said that it's going to return something or nothing. So for now, let's just return nil. And what I'm going to do here, come on, buddy. Sometimes the compiler is a little slow. If you do Command B to build, you'll see that error go away because you know that we've responded to the initial warning correctly. I'm going to remove I'm going to move our print statements over here just to make sure that this is being called at the right time. So let's say we create our user defaults cache. We say that it implements this protocol. We stub out both of these functions that are in the protocol that we need to, but we don't provide really any implementation about data persistence. Instead, we just put a print statement here to let us know that they're being called at the appropriate time. That allows us to go back to to-do list view controller and modify the definition of our cache variable here to say it's actually, to basically say it's no longer nil when we initialize it. It's going to be equal to user defaults cache, a new instance of our user defaults cache, which doesn't do anything right now but print those two words. I can now get rid of the fact that this is optional, because I'm providing a value for it immediately. So it does not indeed need to be optional, which means that down here I'll get an error. You've got this question mark here that you don't actually need, so it's saying delete the question mark. I will accept Xcode suggestion. It'll say the same thing here, delete the question mark. So now let's see what happens. I'm going to set some breakpoints here. I might even set some breakpoints here. Why not? And let's run the application and see what happens. Okay. First breakpoint in load is hit almost right away. If we look at the stack trace here, and this is basically a record of all the function calls that were made up until this point in execution. So the most current is at the top. If I backstep, so if I click on this, it'll highlight in green the line of code that's being called right here, which is this guy, where our breakpoint is set. If I click back, I'll see that it's because it's that line of code is being called because the self.load function is being called inside of view.load. So that's nothing new, but at least we know that this is being called appropriately. And if I hit go, or rather, I'll put another breakpoint here. If I hit step over, I'll see that it will actually go into the load object for key implementation in our userDefaults cache class, which is great because we've set up this new object, userDefaults cache, and the functions are being called the way we want them to. So if I hit continue, I'll hit my second breakpoint here, and I'll see from the local scope variables here in the console area that object is nil, which is exactly what we thought. We returned nil from load object for key anyway. And if I hit continue, I'll see this be completely stepped over. And that's because object could not be unwrapped into a non-nil object of type NS array. And that's exactly what we thought would happen. If we add an item, we'll see that our second breakpoint is hit, the save function. And if we hit continue, we'll see that that enters into our save object function here. And we'll see that it prints load and save right here, which is great.